Minnesota lost one of its last remaining Holocaust survivors this week.
The funeral for Lucy Smith is tomorrow. The 89-year-old was a frequent guest at schools to share her story. Jonah Kaplan reports on the struggle to make sure that the next generation never forgets.
You recognize this building, U.S. Bank Stadium, home of the Minnesota Vikings. Capacity, about 66,000 people. Now imagine for a second a sellout crowd tonight and then a sellout crowd every night for the next 3 months. Add up all of those people, what is that number? 6 million. That's how many Jews were killed by the Nazis and their collaborators in the Holocaust. Lucy Smith's life was a victory over Hitler, but she could not defeat time.
People don't even remember that Holocaust is not one thing, but a lot of experience of a lot of people.
This is video of Smith, born Lilka Chrysler, from the University of Minnesota's archives. Born in Poland in 1933, the Germans evicting her family to the Krakow ghetto when she was 6. The Nazis then deporting most of her family to death camps. But Lucy's father helping she and her mother obtain fake baptism papers, helping them pose as a runaway Catholic family. She'd go from Poland to Paris and then the U.S., settling in St. Paul in the 1970s.
The thing is, she didn't tell much about Grandma. And Grandma was the adult who got them through it.
Lucy's son Daniel today showing us his mother's artwork as he remembers, because he'll now bear the responsibility of bearing witness.
Only 9% of Germans were in the Nazi Party. They were quite selective. I've read a lot about it. You look at, well, political strife in the U.S. and how a small group can lead a larger group of people who are just angry. And it's frighteningly similar. We don't have a Holocaust going on in America, but you see those same patterns. There's similarities in hatred and prejudice. And so when I think about passing on the lessons of the Holocaust, I guess what I do is frame it in things that are happening in people's lives now. And so they can look and see the effects because, well, there it is in history. It was pretty big.
That lesson might be needed now more than ever, as a national survey of younger Americans finding 2/3 of them unaware of Auschwitz, the infamous concentration camp and death machine. A majority of those surveyed also not knowing Hitler was democratically elected. In Minnesota specifically, 60% of millennials and Gen Zers surveyed reported they see Nazi symbols online, and almost half say they see social media posts denying or distorting the Holocaust. The Minnesota Jewish Community Relations Council now working with school districts to reverse these trends. The first step, leaders tell us, teaching the teachers how to navigate through the endless stream of information available and feel confident about why this belongs in their lesson plan.
And teachers change subjects, right? I mean, some teachers change grade levels, throughout their career. So again, we just want to make sure that they have really accurate, historical accurate slides, historical, appropriate lessons. And then it also talks about anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism, which according to the Anti-Defamation League, fueling the largest number of reported attacks against Jews in America in decades last year, including 78 acts of assault, vandalism, and harassment in Minnesota. Among them, threats to a St. Louis Park synagogue and vandalism at a St. Paul Jewish cemetery.
And the majority of the teachers teaching the Holocaust today are not Jewish. And so that's also important to be able to, for them to understand history of Judaism in the context of all of this.
For Daniel Smith, contextualizing his role in this will take time, just like his grief. Lucy Smith always enjoying her visits to Minnesota schools, and there may even be a way for her to return to the classroom, and a memoir given to family but never published.
And her book is interesting because it's not about the Holocaust, it's about life immediately after the Holocaust. And it's well written.
A link to watch more of Lucy's first-hand account and other survivors no longer with us, that's on our website at WCCO.com. Jonah Kaplan, WCCO 4 News.
Nearly 24 states mandate Holocaust education in public schools. That list includes Wisconsin, but not Minnesota.